Hello ladies and gentlemen, this is Mr. Reese. I am just making another video to kind of explain some of the rationales for the exploration when we get, done with, the first wave of exploration with, like Christopher Columbus and Bartholomew Diaz. Alright, so to start off this, we are actually going to be talking a lot about three things, alright, or three motivations that we see behind European exploration to these different lands. Alright, and the best way to kind of tell you about this, it's under the acronym, or it's not an acronym, but three words, which is gold, glory, and God. Okay, and to kind of explain those a little bit further, we're going to be talking about those in a little bit. So the first thing that we have is this idea of trading with, colonizing areas or territories, specifically the Americas, but also sitting there, going over to China like they originally wanted to. Alright. So this is where we get the idea of gold, or making the most amount of gold that we can. So that being said, they also realize that the Americas have a ton of resources that are going to be utilized for making more money. So much so that China actually becomes dependent on Europe, and very later from now, but this is the very start of it. Okay, the second thing is the idea of God, or spreading of God's word. Now, when it comes to the spreading of God's word, the best way to kind of describe it is that many Europeans, specifically the Portuguese and the Spanish, are going to actually have this idea of a holy duty to spread Catholicism. They're going to use that rationale to do a lot of very malicious things towards the Americans, or the Native Americans, I should say, with the Aztecs and the Incans and the Mayans. Okay, and then also the last thing is the idea of glory, or becoming famous. It's also the idea that, you have the YOLO mentality, that you just want to go on an adventure, and because your life in Europe is not very fun at the moment, specifically after the Black Plague and everything along those lines. So moving forward, we're actually going to be talking about the two leaders that come along with this whole idea of exploration, or the first two people that end up coming. So first off, we get the Portuguese, and we also get the Spanish. And these two people are going to sit there and actually be the first ones to actually go to the Americas and try and take over as much land as possible. So they realize that they're going to fight over this land regardless of what actually happens. All right. The one thing that they want to make sure that they do is that they claim the land before they actually, the other country gets or claims it, I should say. So think of it like, a lunch seat or whatever, when, pandemic didn't happen. So you have this idea of, oh, you gotta get your lunch seat before anybody else does, and if you don't, you're gonna be screwed over. All right, now they start realizing that by doing this, and by actually sitting there and fighting over this land, it's going to lead to actual conflict between the two, like violent conflict. So what they end up doing is that they end up looking at the lands, or the claims land, and just kind of looking at it to see what they can do, and just maybe talk it over. So this is what the lands conquering looks like right now. So the yellow is actually Portugal right here. All right, and as you can see, they have claimed most of the western edges of Africa. All right, and over here in the Caribbean, the Spanish actually did. Okay, so remember Bartholomew Diaz? All right, he went down to the Cape of Good Hope. So this land was already claimed for the Portuguese, while the Spanish end up landing in the Caribbean with Christopher Columbus and taking over the Caribbean. So what they end up doing is that they end up coming to a compromise through this treaty called the Treaty of Tordesillas. And this treaty basically said is that Portuguese gets, Africa, all right, a little bit of Iceland, or I should say Greenland, I'm sorry, and a little bit of Brazil area in South America. This is why Brazil actually speaks like a Portuguese language and not so much a Spanish language. The Spanish get everything west of this longitudinal line. All right, so they get basically all the Americas, okay, which is going to be very, very good for them. Okay, now let's talk specifically about the Spanish. All right, the Spanish are actually going to go and imperialize this area. And what I mean by imperialize is by conquering. And so they actually send over these people called conquistadors, all right, Spanish for conquerors. And they're going to go and land in Central America, where the Mayans and the Aztecs are currently located. And so what they end up doing is that they end up going to the Aztecs just expecting war. All right, and there's a reason why I put God here instead of gold, is because they actually wanted to, spread the word of Christianity beforehand, and on top of that, get the gold as well. They actually get permission from the Catholic Church to do whatever they need to be able to do these two things. Now, as we know from, the Crusades, getting any sort of permission to do whatever you want is no bueno for anybody else who doesn't have that permission. All right, and they are going to do whatever they actually see fit. And so this leads to Hernan Cortez landing in Veracruz, also known as Tenochtitlan. All right, and he ends up meeting this Aztec ruler called Montezuma. Now, when he gets here, the Aztec actually believe the Spanish are gods, and so when they believe that they're gods, they are going to treat them very, very well. Hernan Cortez is, very cunning in the sense of he's going to understand that these people are going to be peaceful until they realize that they're not gods anymore. And so what they end up doing is that they end up meeting Montezuma, and they end up taking Montezuma hostage. Now, you take the ruler of anybody hostage, that whole entire nation is going to be very, very angry with you. And so Hernan Cortez, being the smart thinker he is, he ends up telling Montezuma to tell his people that it's okay that they are conquering this area and conquering their empire. The Aztecs are going to be conquered, and that they need to give them what they want. Okay? Montezuma ends up going to tell the people, and there's just stuff that happens that you're going to actually watch a video about in a little bit. Okay, and so they end up taking over this area through violent means, because you're going to watch the video and realize that's very, very violent. But the thing is, they actually take over this area with three things: guns, germs, and steel. And this is actually a book title of a very, very important book in history by Jared Diamond. But the thing is, they use three things to conquer this area. First off is guns. All right, as you can see here, they have guns. If you bring a bow and arrow to a gunfight, you're not going to win. All right. Now, you also get the idea of germs as well. So germs are also going to be utilized as well, that the Spanish are, immune to, but the Aztecs and the Incans and the Mayans are not going to be actually immune to. And so a lot of people are going to die that way. All right, and then we get the idea of steel. All right, it's not really steel, but it flows a lot better than iron. But when it comes to this, if these bows and arrows that the Aztecs are going to use to shoot these conquistadors, it's just going to bounce off of their armor. And so you just sit there and you're like, why are you even trying? I'm just going to shoot you with my gun, right? So it was a very, very bloody killing, to say the least. And something very brutal that the Spanish have actually had to live with for a very, very long time. And so after they get done conquering this area and taking over the gold and spreading the word of God, as you put in quotes, they actually move on to the Incans in South America. All right, so to give you kind of an idea of a little bit more on what I mean by this idea of conquering the Aztecs, there is a nice little video that I'm going to have you guys watch. So with that being said, I am going to be quiet and let this play.
All of Europe wants a piece of the Americas. The old world and the new are on a collision course. Tenochtitlan, Mexico, heart of the Aztec Empire. 28 years after Columbus, the lust for gold is about to change the destiny of the New World through the ambitions of one man, Hernan Cortez. Devious, charming, and ruthless, leading a band of just 500 European adventurers.
Cortez was quite a manipulator and quite savvy. He knows how to motivate people, and the objective is gold, and that's what, of course, was the prime motivation.
Aztec Emperor Montezuma. The richest, most powerful man in the Americas. Ruler of 25 million people. He's welcomed Cortez and his men into his palace. A mistake that will change the fate of a continent.
Their numbers were small. How could they constitute a threat when you have an army that's 1,000 times, 10,000 times larger than the few hundred souls that they brought, right?
Cortez's plan? Kidnap the emperor.
Part of his calculation was, if we can show that we can take over at this level, you know, incarcerate the head of the empire, maybe the rest of the dominoes will fall.
Montezuma's treasuries are filled with gold. The Spanish lust for plunder astonishes the Aztecs. An eyewitness reports.
They snatched up the gold like monkeys. They were swollen with greed. They hungered for that gold like wild pigs.
The people dubbed their captive emperor Cortez's horde and revolt. Trapped inside the palace, Cortez receives word from his men.
We're in imminent danger. We'll all perish unless Montezuma commands the hostilities to stop.
These strangers are my guests. Lay down your arms.
The most powerful ruler in the Americas, murdered by his own people. Fighting for their lives, Cortez and his men barely escape, with a fortune in Aztec gold and silver, and leave behind a lethal time bomb.
The conquistadors are going to war with the Aztecs. But their biggest weapons aren't the ones they're carrying in their hands. It's the virus in their bodies. Smallpox. Unbeknownst to them, they bring it to battle.
6 months later, half the city is dead from smallpox. "11 months after his escape, Cortez returns. his victory complete. He's hijacked the mighty Aztec Empire. An empire of 25 million, brought down by just 500 men.
Alright, so that's a little bit about the story of how, Hernan Cortez actually took over the Aztecs. Now, you guys may have heard of something called Montezuma's Revenge, alright, just when you have like really bad digestive issues. So that actually stems from, the killing of Montezuma. Alright, because like right after, Montezuma dies and the people of the Aztecs, or the Aztec nation, they actually end up getting sick, and so they actually blame it on, them killing their ruler, alright? And this is kind of the idea that, like, Montezuma came back for revenge. So just a little bit of an anecdote right there. Now, when it comes to golds, alright, they believed in something called mercantilism. Now, mercantilism is a very, very fancy word for an economic system that was utilized during the exchange of, goods and services when it comes to this time period in the age of exploration. So a couple of things that you got to remember about golds, or not about gold, but as mercantilism. The first thing is that you want to get as much gold as possible. Okay, now, the way that Europeans thought of this gold is that they thought of gold as like kind of like a pie. Alright, if you have a bigger piece of that pie, that means that other nations are going to have smaller pieces of that pie. And so if you have the biggest piece of pie, then you are going to be the one that is going to be most popular, and you're going to be the one that is going to be the richest. Okay? Now, this leads to them having this ideology that they must have gold, and that they must export export more than what they import. All right. Now, these two terms we actually haven't utilized before. So to kind of define them, exports are just things that you sell. All right. So if I were to sell you something, I am exporting something to you. All right. Now, imports are things that you just buy. All right. So if you sell something to me, I am importing in whatever you are selling to me. Okay, and the big thing is that you want to sell more than what you buy in, all right, when it comes to this idea of gold. And the third thing is that we have this idea of, high tariffs. Now, we want high tariffs or taxes because it is very, very good to get, this first thing, which is gold, all right? If people have to pay taxes to be able to, have stuff, all right, you're going to get all the gold, and they're going to get less of the golds. Okay, so to kind of explain this a little bit more, we're actually going to use kind of an application or deal. So we are in Reestopia, as you guys know. So this is me over in Reestopia saying hi, welcome, buy stuff from me, things along those lines. And I have a lot of Reese's peanut butter cups because, Reese's peanut butter cups are the best candy, and if you don't like Reese's peanut butter cups, then something is very wrong with you. Or you have a peanut allergy, which, if you have that, yeah, I get it. All right, so the thing is that over the land or over the area in Europe, or as I should say, like Whiting High School in this application, is Harnuville. Now, this is Mr. Harnu over here saying, hi, hey, I want some of those Reese's. Those are really, really good. And so I'm going to say, yeah, that's fine. You can buy them from me. So I'm actually going to export these Reese's over to Harnuville. All right. And so when it comes to this, I'm going to actually sell these Reese's for $10, or 10 golden coins. Now, Mr. Harnu is very, very okay with this idea of, buying Reese's peanut butter cups from me. He likes Reese's peanut butter cups. He's going to eat them. Okay. So the thing is, though, is that he is not getting the gold. All right. He is importing more than what he is exporting, because right now he is not exporting anything. So what he is going to end up doing is that he's going to say, hey, Mr. Reese, do you want to buy some stuff from me too? Like, we can make a solid trade. And so he has over in his area Gushers. Now, I like Gushers as well. Gushers are a solid candy, all right? And you do need variety in life. And so when it comes to this, I'm going to buy some. I'm going to say, hey, that's fine. You buy some from me. I'm going to buy stuff from you. And so what he's going to end up doing is that he's going to end up selling this stuff to me. So now he is exporting to me, and I'm getting imports in. So this is going to be in the red to just kind of signify that I'm losing money whenever I buy stuff from Mr. Harnu. Green being, you know, I'm selling stuff, so I'm making money. So Mr. Harnu is going to sit there and be like, well, I'm going to try and get more golds than Mr. Reese, so I can, you know, have a thriving nation. And so what he does is that he actually sells this stuff to me for $12. Okay, so he's buying $10 worth of stuff, but he's making $12 worth of stuff, giving him a profit of $2. Now, with this, you know, transaction, I'm actually losing money. And so when it comes to this aspect of it, I want to say, hey, that's not fair. Like, I'm losing money. I want more gold than what Mr. Harnu has. So what I'm going to end up doing is that I'm going to end up saying, you know what? I am going to create a tariff. Now, this tariff is a tax on anything that gets imported into my, you know, classroom or my country from Mr. Harnu. All right, so these gushers are going to come to the ports, and there's going to be a nice little paper that says tariff is at $4. So when he ends up coming over to actually give me some of these gushers, he is going to have to subtract $4 from his, you know, sell. All right, or yeah, he's going to end up having this. So what's going to end up happening is that I'm going to actually get back into the profit part of it. All right, so I'm actually going to make $2 because I am selling my stuff for $10. All right, I am losing $2 in the sell, but I'm gaining $4 with the tariff, which gives me a grand total of $2 of profit. Okay, so that's a little bit of what mercantilism is explained as. Okay, now moving on, this whole idea of exporting and importing actually really helps out the Columbian Exchange that the Europeans are going to try and do. Okay, so the Columbian Exchange is just an economic activity that talks about trade between Europe and the Americas. And so when we talk about this different, you know, trading going on, we're going to be talking about, you know, utilizing plantations. And so we're going to get different plantations in the U.S. and in Europe. In the U.S. we have something called cotton, all right, which is going to be in the southern part of North America, which is, as you guys know, going to be very bad for, you know, slaves that are going to be coming over. Okay, we also get the idea of sugar, all right, from the Europeans that are going to come over to the Americas. And we also get vanilla that's going to come from America. Now, to give you kind of a visual of some of the things that are being exported and imported from different areas is this image. Okay, so coming over from the Americas to Europe, so exports of America going over to Europe include all of these things. Okay, one of the most beneficial things that actually is being sold from the Americas to Europe is this idea of tobacco. All right, tobacco is going to become addictive. All right, and they're going to use it to smoke in their pipes and cigars and different things along those lines. Okay, now coming over from Europe to the Americas, so if I'm in the North American perspective, these are imports coming in. We're going to get things like citrus fruit, grapes, onions, olives, tulips, or not tulips, oh my gosh. Well, actually, yeah, tulips. That's a whole nother story that we can get into later. Turnips, coffee beans, all right, are going to come over, and sugar cane. Now, you may also notice this idea of diseases. I want to talk about that in a little bit, but I want to talk about sugar cane first. Okay, so as you guys can see that some of these, you know, ingredients that are being transferred over and, you know, meshing together, you can make like recipes out of them. All right, one of which is this idea of cacao powder and sugar cane. All right, to make chocolate. Okay, now this isn't the chocolate that you guys all know about and you guys love, like the really sugary type. This is really not that. All right, we're talking about probably 90% cacao powder and about 10% sugar cane and other things that they may add in it. All right, so we're talking about like 90% bitterness, okay, because cacao is very, very bitter. Now, to kind of help you guys understand that, my AP class actually had tasting of these things, okay? And so I made this in my TikTok, so you're going to see my TikTok. This is also a friendly reminder to follow me on TikTok. I have a bunch of history videos that I'm going to be making. All right, but when it comes to this, they are going to actually, taste them, and this is the reaction that you get from them. So I'm going to mute myself and play this video. Eating Columbia Exchange chocolate, part 1.
90% cacao. Should be fun.
Yeah. It's not bad? Ooh, there you go. It's good? You guys actually like it? Yeah. Eating chocolate that could possibly be on the Columbia Exchange, part 2. No?
No.
Oh, okay.
Oh, I like it.
The girls tend to like this a lot better.
It's just bland. It tastes good though.
You like it?
Yeah.
Alright. What did you rate it?
Like a 6.4.
Okay. Alright, so that's a little bit about my AP class. Now, this leads you to your extra credit that you may get. So this is worth 2 points. All it is that I want you to actually get some of this, alright? 90% you can go to a grocery store. You can actually go to like Strax and they have it. Okay, that's where I actually got this dark chocolate from. Alright, it's going to be like roughly like $3 or $4, I think. But if you send me a video of your reaction to it, you can get some extra credit points for it. Alright, just something really interesting and fun to do, and it kind of gives you a reason to go do something, I guess. So that being said, that is the extra credit that you are going to have. Moving on. This is actually more of an image on, more visual, I guess, of this exchange that we get. So we still get the same things. Alright, we also get llamas. Llamas are cool. Llamas are very, very cool. You should like them. Alright, but the big thing that I want you guys to point out here, or I want to point out to you guys, is this idea of a lot of diseases that are coming over. And you guys kind of saw it with Hernan Cortez a little bit, but smallpox, huge. Bubonic plague, you know, the thing that they're all immune to in Europe at this point? Yeah, that comes over. Cholera, alright, the flu, measles, malaria, leprosy, chickenpox, and different things like that. They're all going to come over and, they're going to decimate the populations of America, which is going to cause them to try and find other people to work for them, all right, that are not in the Americas, but possibly be in Africa. And we're going to be talking about that later on. So moving past that, we also get the last thing, which is the idea of glory. All right, glory is just fame that leads to, different perks of society. All right, these people like Christopher Columbus are going to become very, very famous, basically like celebrities during this time period because, they're discovering all this stuff. All right. We also get people that actually try and discover the fountain of youth because, the fountain of youth is apparently somewhere in the world and they're trying to find it. All right. Or what they're going to end up doing is that they're going to not become famous, but they're going to become infamous. And this leads to the idea of pirates. All right. So pirates start becoming a major ordeal during this time period. These are mostly Europeans that are a little bit poorer, all right? They end up getting a ship and they end up trying to rob all these other caravels and cargo ships that they have, all right? And some of them actually become very, very famous, all right? So to talk about a couple of these, we get the idea of, Blackbeard, all right? Now, this is taken from Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag, all right? This is a video game that you should definitely play. It's a lot of fun. Alright, to get to have your own ship and everything, but you get to meet Blackbeard, alright, and the one thing that a lot of people don't realize with Blackbeard is that he didn't actually really kill anybody, okay, yeah, he defended himself, but he's not going to sit there and be this malicious person that just, tortures all these people, alright, he's actually just perceiving himself as this very malicious person so that people don't mess with him. We also get the idea of Captain Kidd, alright, he does look like a kid, but that's not the reason why he's called Captain Kidd. The thing is that this is actually a woman, alright, and this brings me to this idea of gender inequality within pirates still. So, Captain Kidd actually sat there and dressed up as a male because he, or not, I shouldn't say he, she didn't want to be discriminated against and didn't want to be, you know, just taken not seriously. So she ends up dressing up like this male in this very male-dominated profession, and ends up being this person that is going to sit there and become very famous with what she does. Okay, so yeah, there's that. Last thing that I want you guys to look at is this video of Blackbeard. Just something cool to look at, I guess. So yeah, there's that. But other than that, if you are done with your notes, can you please turn those in, please and thank you. And if you have any questions whatsoever, please feel free to email me. With that being said, I hope you guys all have a great day. Bye.